Hi Noah, here's my update. I listened to the Wednesday night workshop and I have the feeling I'm already doing Guru Yoga. I didn't think I was ready to do it because I think it was something different in my mind to what you described in the workshop. I'll try to explain. It's always different from what is being said to what you conceptualize. So always have to remember not to make tattoos out of the words. But they're always changing at the level of our consciousness. That's why we can always read the holy text and get something new year after year after year. Every day before I meditate, I do the Padmasambhava Sadhana. I bring Padmasambhava into my body and through all my chakras. I visualize him and take the empowerments through my crown chakra with white light, through my throat chakra with red light, and through my heart with blue sapphire light. I have felt the raindrop effect of the blessings, but not only that, I am actually experiencing moments of bliss in a new way. One example is that of looking at the clouds and feeling so overwhelmed with joy, I need to calm myself down. I was driving along the road the other day and I looked at a huge cloud which was well defined and fluffy. As I was doing so, the Ultra HD quality vision was there and the cloud was so perfect and immense. The sky so beautifully blue and the feeling so joyful. I can only compare it to coming up of ecstasy. The rushes through my body and mind were so pleasurable, I had to just remain calm and remember Dudjom Lingpa's words, "Don't be scared when bliss descends." There are many other examples, but I know I don't need to go into them. I feel that Padmasambhava is in union with me and that he protects and guides me all the time. So, in the initial stages, we generally don't want to calm the bliss down, if we can. I understand if you're in the supermarket, or if you're out and about, maybe you feel you need to. If you feel that you're going to be under some threat, if you are. That's why one of the reasons why we have Sangha gatherings is that you let that out when we're chanting Allah. So, for example, if we're chanting Allah, you just completely just lose yourself in ecstasy whilst you're chanting. Yeah, just completely and you're touching the realm of God. Yeah, it's ecstatic. Yeah, over time, when you've gone through these levels of really expressing your ecstasy, that ecstasy gets contained in being still. So that's why we don't emulate physically necessarily the spiritual guide. So the spiritual guide may be sitting still while there's music going on. And if you emulate that, then all you'll be doing is repressing all your energy to think I should sit still. And you should be up dancing and yelling to Allah if you're so moved. So in the Sufi gatherings, the best, we can say, is when you follow your natural impulses, and when the music moves you, the zikr moves you, you get up and dance. So you don't just sit there because you feel that you should sit there, and you don't just get up and dance because everyone's dancing. You get up and follow your natural rhythm of bliss. So a lot of the times at Sangha gatherings, you're observing if you've been observed if you're behaving right. And the ego is trying to fit in rather than express yourself as you need to express yourself. Yeah, so it's like, yeah, and dancing is a good measure of that. If you want to get up and dance but you just sit still, or if you want to prostrate but you don't, because you're just trying to fit in with everyone else. So let the ecstasy go. I mean, these are quite rare feelings like when we first encounter them. It's like ecstasy and life. It's incredible. The bliss, the joy, the tears of joy. Yeah. When we first get into it and when we're on the path, there's no, everyone's different. But we could say we can have tears of joy every day. Yeah. We're really letting out our tears, really expressing our emotion and the unbelievable encounter that we know truth, that we know God's real. We know that love is real. And again, that condenses down to stillness. We don't start in stillness. We have to move through our consciousness. And then, as you say, it's like ecstasy. Ecstasy is, you could almost say it's like a placebo to let out those states that are within us. Yeah. So all the drugs people take, they're just states of consciousness that are within us. And when we're on the path, we will move through those states in a natural way. And when they're natural, they're incomparably better than a placebo or a contaminated substance that moves our energy winds in a kind of impure way. See, now you're getting the real McCoy, because now it's coming from within you, not from something else. So it's very beautiful. And it can be overwhelming for some people. Some people don't understand happiness. It's like, and there has to be a reason. See, when we're moving on the spiritual path, we're moving into the realm of isness. So that's when you start laughing in ecstasy. And for people who don't get it, they say, what are you laughing at? Why are you laughing? What's the reason? Why are you happy? What's the reason? As if sadness and misery is a natural state of affairs. But when you actually touch into to life, then its natural state is joy. Just one other example. I have a cousin who I fell out with more than 15 years ago. We had been close, so our fallout was severe and came from a place in our hearts where we both thought we were doing the right thing in supporting our mums. Anyway, at the end of my uncle's funeral, I left the church and saw my cousin. She looked at me and I just opened my arms to her. She ran across, hugged me and said she was sorry for everything. I apologized for everything too, and we reconnected. I'm convinced that was Padmasambhava, because I wouldn't have been sure of her response, so probably wouldn't have let myself open to rejection or any other negative response. So just like with Christ, we have there's two levels of reality working at the same time. God's will and relative truth. So on one level, we're powerless to do anything. On one level, things are just going to happen as they are. And on another level, when we start to tap into God, when we start to tap into blessings, when we start to tap into truth, we experience miracles. Doesn't mean they happen all the time. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. It's God's will. But we can say if we don't tap into truth, tap into lineage, tap into blessings, they almost never happen. Like that. And for many masters, they say the true miracle is love. It's not being able to fly. Birds can fly. It's not being able to endure intense suffering. People who've been captured by enemies have gone through months, years of torture and still come out. It's the ability to love, and it's the ability to disidentify with negative emotional states. These are the miracles. When you're on the path, this can happen many times, that people have held a grudge against you for years, or difficult, abusive, energetic patterns can suddenly just release. And you start to notice on a more subtle level that your family members start to warm to you. Over time, harmony starts to develop in the family. Or family relationships become more harmonious than what they were. Not that there's going to be an end to like family drama. The tone of it starts to change. Your parents' minds start to change into a more peaceful way as well. This is the blessings. Yeah. It's your awakening starts to touch upon other people. When we get out of the way, then we start to experience the non-dual states of consciousness of the holy beings. Yeah. So it's not like Padmasambhava's consciousness is over there and our consciousness is here. The more we start to observe in meditation that consciousness has no boundary. Yeah. It's undefinable. And we start to realize that that consciousness is one consciousness. And the more you bring awareness to what miracles can be, this miracles of love, this miracle of joy, the more it starts to happen. Like Jesus said, the more you have, the more will be given. The less you have, the more will be taken away. So he's referring to this in the economics. That the world you perceive is dependent upon your mind. So if you have a joyful, happy mind, the more joyful, happy things appear in the mind. Like this. And then you can start to trust. This is what the letters get into. You can start to trust that there's what we call a higher power, which is our true self, the higher elements within us, will dissolve the conceptual problems that were there. And you start to move from the heart much more. And then, you see, life becomes beautiful. Then this is sadhana, this is practice. Not that you're practicing it like consciously. You're aware now of what it means to move in a higher dimension. It's this awareness and love. Awareness and love. Then life starts to take on so much more meaning and wonder and beauty than you can ever dream of. It's wonderful. I also mentioned to you before that when I first met you at Hakim's, I felt that you had reached in and taken my heart so you could show it me, and I could see how it actually was. I also very quickly realized that you and Padmasambhava were interchangeable in my perception. Is this already Guru Yoga? Yeah. So this is the blessings of the lineage can move through people. This is why it's important to meet new people and go into gatherings. Unfortunately, I never get invited anywhere. So, and in our tradition, you don't impose yourself on anyone. So it's always by invite that you do things. It's like it's not our place to disturb someone else's dream. Yeah. There's a few exceptions, like prophets. They come down and they disturb people's dreams. Yeah. If you come in and disturb people's dreams against their will, they rise back up against you. But when people invite you and then you can go and meet them, then the blessings can come in very strong. And also in those initial moments, very often people have Zen mind, beginner's mind. Yeah, they have less expectation. And they also, if there's like a good Sangha around, they also come up against a wall of blessings. The first time they have the contrast between no blessings and then go into a space where people are blessed, where the energy of God is coming through that space, and you feel it very strong. So that's why we don't. That's why it doesn't feel like we're feeling that initial feeling again, because now we're getting used to it. Whereas before there was the contrast, and the contrast has tremendous openings in our heart, which is very beautiful. And then we mirror and we see how our heart actually is and how it yearns for this love. It yearns for this love. It yearns to be part of a family. It yearns to be seen by someone else that yes, I too know that God exists. In this vast desert of materialist nihilism and complete kind of immoral disorder where the ego is supreme. Yeah, it's like reality is now defined by someone's egoic whims and feelings. Yeah. And if anyone even dares to put a negative feeling in against that person's ego, they could try and sue them, punish them. That reality must bend to how I perceive it in my ego. That to come back into a world of God, of love, of reality. Yeah. So this is what you feel. This is what people feel when they first come. Whoa. People who are mature. Yeah. So like on the spiritual path as you progress, people who can have a sense of humour, people who can take a joke, people who don't get offended. It's like you can say one of the marks out of a saint is whether they get like can't think of the words, like just things are unshockable to a saint. Yeah. Like they're not going to get upset because they hear some swear words or things like that, So if we think of our current culture, it's like people get offended by anything. So when we come back and we meet a group of adults, again, it awakens us up. It's like we feel that joy that we're coming home. So as you say here, when we're practicing Guru Yoga, then we're not relating to a personality. So consciousness is Padmasambhava. Yeah. Padmasambhava is not some Indian dude. That Indian dude's dead. Padmasambhava is consciousness. So if you come into a space where remember that we perceive what we're attending to. Yeah. What we're told to be aware of is what we'll perceive. Yeah. That's exactly how the news functions. Now we want your mind to perceive this, and then people they start thinking and conceiving about Iraq. And now we want you to perceive and think about Russia. They start thinking and perceiving about Russia. Now we want to think you about war and fear. They start becoming afraid of weak. Where our attention gets put, that's where our awareness goes. If our awareness is put on consciousness and God, we'll start to see it. We'll start to feel it. When we enter a gathering where everyone is doing that, we'll start to relate to each other and the spiritual guide as consciousness. The more we can do it, the more we connect with the consciousness that's Padmasambhava, or Jesus Christ, or Buddha that's there. And then, he said, that's interchangeable. In the scriptures, in the Buddhist scriptures, the symbol for God is Vajradhara, which is the consciousness that's never fallen into sin. It's never fallen into ignorance. It's been primordially enlightened since the dawn of time. That consciousness manifests and says, in degenerate times, I will appear as an ordinary being to guide others. Like I will manifest as spiritual guides everywhere, and I will appear just ordinary. Yeah. But this message is the same in all the traditions. That God will appear in a human form as ordinary to guide and show the way. So it's that ability to perceive the divine in the human. So in a way, the more flawed your spiritual guide is, the better it is if you can perceive the divine in that flawed element. I feel so thoroughly blessed, it's difficult to comprehend at times. The mind will implode. It just cannot believe that all along the world is bliss, God, goodness, truth, joy, mercy, wonder. That is true. And out of all the people that are, where their minds are drawn to, as I say, it's drawn to the news, to fear, to gossip, to fighting, my country's better than your country, my religion's better than your religion, or watching people gossiping now on the TV, people just criticizing other people, materialistic nihilism, that's what people are told to think, so when you die there's nothing, etc., etc. But to actually find the path, and this is what you'll notice, is that you may have read the scriptures for years, you may have read spiritual texts for years, but when you meet lineage, suddenly it becomes alive. Suddenly the dimension in which you're now reading Christ is utterly transformed. You can watch a TV program about Christ and receive blessings. You're actually experiencing a living lineage, unbroken mysticism. And you can't believe it. But it's true. Perhaps you can tell me whereabouts you think I am on the path. At what stage? Am I ready for Guru Yoga? Am I already doing it? Should I wait, as I'm fairly new to the path? Only a year and a half in, and the general recommended time was around 6 years, if I remember correctly. Your advice is always welcome and helpful, so any guidance on this would be appreciated. Thank you as always for your support and kindness. Love. There's a couple of beautiful things in this question. One is the most wonderful innocence to these questions, and that's like Zen mind, beginner's mind. The more we don't have concepts about where, I'm getting it, I'm the best, the better we are on the path. But the path is not some linear, causal dimension. It's a state of maturity of consciousness. And if we think of it on more of a cosmic scale, this is especially in the Tibetan system, someone may be born already more advanced in the spiritual path than someone who's 80. And the Lam Rim, what we're trying to show, is these stages of consciousness. So even if you meditate for years, and you do lots of prostrations, and you do lots of offerings, and you do lots of service, but you're still just trying to get ambitious results, your consciousness hasn't moved yet. So you could meditate. It's like you've never left the surface of the sea. And it doesn't matter how much time you spend on the surface, you're never going to get any fish. Whereas someone could just go out into the sea for the first time, and if they dive in, they're already more advanced than the person that spent 20 years on the surface. Because they haven't gone in the direction of the consciousness yet. It hasn't been transformed. Also, someone may not have a deep wish to go in. This deep wish gets revealed over time through trials and tribulations. But when they meditate, they just take a little bit out of their negativity. Whereas someone who has an unbelievable yearning for God, one session or one meeting with the Master can do more impact on their consciousness than someone who's been meditating for 20 years. And then the next time they meditate, it has more impact than someone meditating for 20 years. And the next time they meditate, It's not like we're gathering up apples and it's like we all have the same basket and you have to pick it up like that. It's not like that. We're already enlightened. And it's just, do you want to recognize it or not? And if you don't really want to recognize it deep down, you can meditate for years and years and years and years and years and years and years, lifetime and a lifetime and a lifetime. If you really want it, then you'll be awakened now. So, the stages of consciousness are like the maturation of an adult. You can look at it like that. Like a child before their sex chakra opens is completely different. As soon as that chakra opens, they're at a different stage of consciousness. And when they're a child, they're unrelatable. A teenager is unrelatable. You'll know this from when you have families. A teenager, when their sex chakra opens, they become unrelatable to their siblings when they're younger. It's a totally different dimension. So it's like that. And one of the stages of that different dimension is you can recognize the divinity in another human being. You say, so that's Guru Yoga. So some people, there's no fixed number. The recommended time is 12 years. It's a safeguard to, hopefully over time, the being will awaken to a different dimension of consciousness where they start relating to the guide as divine. Like that. So some people, they can start practicing Guru Yoga as soon as they meet the Guru. A lot of the safeguards are for the Western culture who don't quite understand what it means. And people can fall into difficulty and people can get abused. And no doubt we've talked about that, and I talk about it a lot. Sometimes we just don't want to focus on the negative too much. Yeah? And it's not like we're actually practicing a situation where the teacher just tells people what to do and they have to do it. Or they're in their lives telling them who they can marry or where they can live. Yeah? And just send them, now you're going to live over there. That's what it's like when I was ordained. Now you're going there. And now your life's out your hands because you're ordained. This body and mind is no longer mine. It belongs to the Guru. We're not doing that. So there shouldn't be too much danger. We're falling in love and following our heart. Yeah. But the main test is we're perceiving the divine through that person. And if we're doing that, then we're practicing Guru Yoga. So of course, even if you fall in love with someone, yeah, like on a sort of mundane, ordinary relationship level, you still want to spend some time with them before you get married, unless you're crazy. But it's fine to be crazy, isn't it? It's fine to go, I meet you, I fall in love, and we get married by Elvis in the same weekend in Vegas. There's nothing wrong with a bit of craziness. It depends upon your nature, as long as you take responsibility for being crazy. And some people do, and they're fine with being like, I'm a bit of a crazy person, I like to do things a bit wild and I'm rash. I know that problems will come from it, and it's fine, isn't it? But we're just checking out that if their personality doesn't rub us up the wrong way too much. Because when you're practicing Guru Yoga, you're going to have to see that the divine in the flaws of the person. Now, you want to check out if that person really doesn't live in accord with the Dharma. Like, are they sexually abusing people? Yeah. Are they really just trying to get your money? Are they really in it for a reputation? Yeah. Are they in it to get a lot of followers? Like, they like a lot of, they get YouTube numbers and then charge lots of money and have massive retreats and just sell them on something that they know the audience wants to hear because it's trendy, and they'll get lots of money and big retreats and they can basically live it up. So maybe some authentic teachers are doing that. So how do you distinguish? But you have to check. It's like, can I actually follow that? Like, can I still see the divine and my connection with this being, and they've just got lots of followers of the opposite sex fawning over them? Does that go in accord with my understanding of the Dharma? Or are they just doing what they want? And can I handle that? Because with the Guru Yoga, if you really like internally making the change, it's like, I am now no longer going to criticize the Guru. I'm no longer looking to see if they're a suitable teacher for me. We're moving from doubt, checking out their qualities, seeing if it's good for me to get involved in this or commit myself, to trust. So it's possible to fall in love with someone immediately, and then we can trust our heart. But if that person, say if it's just an ordinary person, steals from us, it can break our heart and break our trust. But if we meet them and we find out their family, and they go, oh, they find out that they're a thief or they've betrayed other people, etc., etc., then we might not just jump into it. Yeah. I hope that makes sense. That there's those two elements of reality, of falling in love and trust, and checking the person out. Now, if you fall in love with someone, like immediately, and trust, and you check the person out, and you go through and go, actually, this person teaches the Dharma, teaches a lineage, they've had a teacher, they seem pretty good for their words. No one's perfect, they have their little flaws and the things, but generally, they're doing the right thing, they're a good person. They've given me advice that works. I've put into practice and it changed me. Then the next time I had something and they gave me advice or a practice, it worked. And the next time it worked. Yeah? And it goes on like this, till at some point we say, right, I don't need to doubt anymore. I'm in. I'm committing to this path. As in you'd commit to a relationship. As we all know, whilst we're skimming on the surfaces of a relationship, the woman especially can feel that the person's not committed. And when they're not committed, you can't go deep together. And it's just a physical relationship. But when you say, I'm going to marry you, those words have impact. Especially in a culture where marriage is still valued. And it's like that. You're no longer looking for anyone else, you're no longer checking it, I'm in. So in Guru Yoga at that point, because you've had these experiences that verify your reality, instead of when the Guru or the teacher gives a teaching and you check it out, like Buddha said, checking it like gold, you're checking out, is that true, is that true, is that true? You just take it on as word. And you start to take it as God himself talking to you. Yeah? So you really want to make sure that when you're doing that, that the one you're doing it from is given pure Dharma. You don't want him to give them like personality defects. And you're going, right, that's God speaking to me. So he wants to be pure Dharma. But you're no longer analysing because you've already analysed it. That's the point. Just analysing is no good. Just being in love can be tricky. The union of you've spent time analysing and doubting, and this love and trust creates the Guru Yoga. Trust based on experience. Then we can start to surrender. As you were talking about earlier on, that's Guru Yoga. You're surrendering now to a deeper sense that the goodness of life will flow through. So trust is a universal phenomenon that even when bad things happen, this is the point, the main point. When bad things happen, you trust that's what's right. At that point, every single thing is pushing you on the path. There's no more doubt. Oh, did I go to the wrong place? I shouldn't have heard that teaching. Oh, no more doubt. A bad teaching that seems to you to have maybe made you think conceptually too much for half a year was what was meant to happen. Nothing else could happen other than what could happen. Yeah? Your mind has all causes and effects within it. You can't have a different mind than you have, and only that mind can relate to reality in the way that only that mind can. And it's just an illusion that we can actually do something other than what we are. This is really getting into trust. And that's encapsulated, it's highlighted in what we call the Guru. So we never criticize at this point, because that's counterproductive to this understanding that all is one. In other words, we're losing our mind and going completely into the heart and surrendering. Now, it's difficult. Can't do that from the beginning with everything, and we still don't do it with the world. We still go, that's not a good person. We still recognize that corporation is evil. We recognize that putting adverts for children on that bestiality is okay is evil. We recognize that materialistic nihilism and the people motivating it are evil. And it doesn't detract from our ability to sink into the heart and recognize God everywhere. So it's the union of human and divine. Yeah. The level to which we're still seeing the human materialistic world is the dualistic world, is we can discriminate between wrong and right. And at the same time, there's a deeper dimension of consciousness that recognizes none of it's real. It's just at an illusory relative level. Yeah. That's a mature consciousness, and that's where Guru Yoga is leading us, to a mature consciousness, which, as you say, it's like innocent. Yeah? The end of knowledge, again, is innocence, because we recognize that knowledge itself, the information, has got nothing to do with reality. It's just pointless. So perhaps you're not fairly new to the path, and also coming in contact with a new presentation of the path. It's not being new to the path. The spiritual path, everyone is spiritual. Let's say we drop the word spiritual path and say, how is everyone's life unfolding? And you look at someone whose life is unfolding, that they're taking heroin, they hate their parents, it's a continuous effort just to get out of bed and function throughout the day. It's not as effective as someone who sees the harmonious relationship of all their relationships, who can value the opinion of all other people, who can empathize with someone who's homeless, and it brings them joy to touch someone else's heart, and they're in a state of continuous well-being. That's what we'd prefer. And that's effective. So we would call that person spiritual. Now, how they get there, this person, the heroin addict, the person that's depressed, may have read lots of philosophical books. In fact, a lot of them do. And the person that's like empathetic, loving, kind, may not have read many. And their natural impulse is to move through the heart. So we would say that they're just, you could say they're working on good karma from their previous life. They're not necessarily conscious of how they're doing it. And when we say coming into the spiritual path, like you're doing now, you're becoming conscious of that process, conscious of what it means to have children and love them. And you become aware of the effect of having that beautiful consciousness on your life. And the more you're aware of it, the more beautiful it blossoms. If you're not in that space yet, and you come to the spiritual path, you might be made aware of your deep shadow side, and that your actions are causing pain to other people. And the more aware of it you are, the more painful it is of what it means to be asleep in repetitive states of thinking, in a constant sense of I'm right. Oh no, the way I see the world is right. And it just perpetuates more suffering. We say that person's not necessarily spiritual, but they may be meditating for 10 or 20 years. But until they change that, they're not spiritual. Yeah, again, drop the word spiritual. They're not unfolding their life in a harmonious way with truth. And we get taught the basics, the same basics that get taught in Tibet or India or anywhere. Like, don't kill, don't lie, don't steal. These are just basics from which we then rise to maturity, in which, say, the Dalai Lama said, and Father Richard, we learn the rules enough and very well so we know how to break them. We know the foundation stones of how a society should be, and then we learn how to listen to someone's heart with the correct foundation of reality, so we're not ego whimsy. We can recognize someone's feelings, but we're not motivated by their feelings. Yeah? So someone's having difficult feelings, we can recognize and speak to those feelings, but bring in an undercurrent of something deeper that's causing those feelings to happen. It's like Chinese medicine. You go into the root cause. Just because you go into the root cause, you can still recognize the symptoms. Yeah, so it's like the union of those two. This is Guru Yoga, the union of the divine and the human. So just like marriage, just to finish off, you can also make a ritual request, as we can say. We say, I want to be your disciple. Yeah. In sannyas, our guru is God. Yeah. In Guru Yoga, specifically, you're making like a marriage to a person. And just like in a marriage, it's got its own inner commitments. Yeah, just like in a marriage, you're not looking to go anywhere else now. This is where love is. It's natural for human beings to be monogamous. It's very hard to be in a polygamous relationships. It's very hard. It's just, there's always exceptions to the rule, but it's really more natural to be in a monogamous relationship. And then from that space of you're loved, you can go anywhere. Being in a good relationship, similar to being celibate, like being a monk or a nun, is that it's like, okay, sex is off the table, and I'm not looking for it from anyone. Now I can hang out with anyone of any sex. Yeah, once that's off the table, then you can start. That's the idea behind it. Then you can communicate with everyone, and it's not a problem. That's the same with a good relationship. So it's the same in good Guru Yoga. I know my path, I know my practices, then I can listen to anyone and everything. Then we're just flying on the path. Flying on the path. In the same way that we have a certain anxiety in our being until we meet our partner. And when you fall in love, it's you. We know a lot of friendships can end, a lot of the activities that we're doing end because unconsciously we're only doing them to find a partner. And then once we've settled into our relationship, we again start to move out into the world, but from this base of being loved deeply. And a good relationship is our private self is loved, isn't it? It's all about someone sees me. Someone sees me, and I'm accepted. But like I mentioned it before, it's the final thing to say is, naturally, you clean the toilet for your partner. I hope you do. You have serious problems if it's just one person that's cleaning the toilet. You'll do the dishes for them. I really hope you do, or there'll be serious problems. When you fall in love, you sacrifice everything for the other. In fact, your identities start to become merged. Yeah? And the things you want to do that you're doing on yourself, you can't do anymore. You're surrendering yourself with the other. And that is called happiness. Cleaning the toilet for your beloved can bring much more happiness than traveling the world for yourself. Just getting our own way is not enlightenment. Yeah. So you just, end of the day, just know this in your heart, right? And for me, personally, just like, even if you get me 2 kids, or someone, they're 18, 19, and they absolutely love each other, if you're wise, and they say, we want to get married, you go, let's just wait. Let's just wait a little while. That's what this 6 years thing is. Okay, you're having a beautiful explosion of love. Let's just see when things settle down. And the tough times coming. That doesn't mean that those two young lovers don't spend all their time together, celebrate that love, but we're just going, okay, we won't actually commit to it for a lifetime yet. Yeah, you with me? Oftentimes when these things are pointed out, people highlight on the negative. It's like, oh right, that means I won't meditate a lot because the Guru said there's a minimum commitment of 20 minutes, so I'll just do that. It doesn't mean that at all. If you start the path and you got good energy, you should be meditating 8 hours a day. It's just, can you do it when you've got a busy day at work, you're feeling a bit pissed off, you just want to watch some garbage on the TV, can you put in 8 hours? It's like, no. But the things like, don't do nothing. Do at least 20 minutes or 40 minutes. Yeah. So sometimes, don't do it so often, you can flip it the other way. Sometimes it's good just to rush in headlong. Sometimes it's just good to run too fast. You know? Sometimes it's good to spend a year just meditating 8 hours a day. When you do a 3-year retreat, that's what you'll be doing. 4 sessions of 2 hours a day for 3 years. Yeah, so, isn't it? Sometimes it's good. Just, there's lots of safeguards for our culture of irresponsibility. That if anything goes wrong, blame, negativity, I'll sue you, it's your fault, bad words, speaking back just because one negative thing happened. Honestly, you can be with someone, have 10 years of nothing but good time, they do one negative thing, and it just, I knew it, just this negativity just erupts from people. Yeah, there's no responsibility. Yeah, if you check the problems that you've had in your life, you've put yourself in those situations. You didn't have to spend time at that university. You didn't have to spend time with that person. You chose to, because you were going to get something out of it. And when it's not perfect, there's this complaint. That's our culture, so I'm not talking about, isn't it? That's the culture. The suing culture is crazy. So, a lot of people, spiritual teachers, address that to be safe. Yeah. Remember, we've got materialistic nihilists in charge who follow Satan. Yeah. There's never good programs about God on TV. Anything about wise people, it's a cult. Not that long ago, it was the greatest joy in life to meet a wise person and learn from them. Now it's like, oh, are they dodgy? It's like, that's now built into the culture. And it didn't take them that long. Whenever you say, oh, I've met a wise person, oh, is it a cult? Is it a cult? Is it negative? Are they going to abuse me? It's like, that's how insane we've become. Yeah. Rather than just this delight that you just almost buy flowers for the air. It's just like, you just want to offer your life and happiness. That there's wise people, that God exists, and Christ is truth. Christ consciousness is the light and the way. So I hope that somehow kind of answered something in some way. Thank you.